Welcome to Chronic Combat Conversations, a live look at our best bets, picks, and predictions for every UFC event. With your hosts, Tyler from TB Scouting MMA and
Guru Scouting MMA, back again for a hell of a card after last week's incredible card, sneaky good. 10 fights, 8 finishes. But this week, we've got the return of the CEO of EPO, TJ Dillashaw, the former bantamweight champ, versus Corey Sandhagen, the upstart with 2 finishes back-to-back of Frankie Edgar and Marlon Moraes, looking to cement himself as a real title challenger. Really, this is a title eliminator fight, if you ask me, TB.
I would say so. I mean, damn, Sandhagen, he really gave it up in that last fight that he lost. Not his last fight, but his last loss to Aljamain Sterling. I mean, that was definitely concerning, but for him to turn it around the way he has in his last 2 appearances, those crazy finishes, I mean, that flying knee on Edgar, oh boy. But then you got Dillashaw coming back off a 2-year absence. Like you so casually mentioned, we got the EPO. And Dillashaw was dropping a weight class, a real sketchy fight against Cejudo. Now we see Dillashaw come back at the proper weight, 135. He is a little bit older. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of red flags. There's a lot to get into with that fight, isn't there?
Yeah, there certainly is. UFC Vegas 32 or UFC on ESPN 27 is not just top heavy, though. We have other incredible fights littered throughout. With the co-main event with Aspen Ladd, actually her return versus Macy Chiasson. Kyler Phillips is a prospect that everybody should be looking out for. You got the women fighting, Macy Barber, Miranda Maverick. You got to circle that card as that fight is one you have to watch. Even Pauliano Soriano versus Brendan Allen on the prelims, one you really can't miss. And who knows where our boy is fighting. But Adrian Yanez and Randy Costa, hopefully they move that fight to the main card because that should be a barn burner, fireworks, really exciting fight.
I mean, talk about the people's main event, right? That's like the classic definition right there. You got 2 beautiful prospects. And when I say beautiful, I mean, like, come on, we can admit it. These guys are like good looking. They're fucking great records. Like the fans want to see them. We got Dr. Pepper versus Reese's. I mean,
I'm a Reese's guy personally, but
that's fuck, I'm Dr. Pepper, bro.
That's fucked up.
Oh shit! Wow, the news is really coming out here on Chronic Combat Conversations.
Oh, so, I just mean like I don't drink any soda.
Yeah, I mean, fuck you, bro. I don't need Reese's, so let's get it right. That's crazy. I like more like the organic shit, you know, like those like dark chocolate, you know, peanut butter ones. Like that's just so much more tastier. I'm not a Reese's guy.
Nah, but give me that processed. I'm going straight to Hershey, Pennsylvania. Give me my Reese's. That's what's up.
All right, so looks like we're on opposite ends of the junk food debate, but let's get into this card because I think we might end up with a consensus by the time we get to that fight. So, I mean, let's as we always do. Here we are, starting at the bottom. We got Diana Belbita coming in versus Hannah Goldie, and man, this fight is so sketchy to me. And with 0 total wins between the 2 of them in the UFC, I mean, I think that says it all, right?
Honestly, what would the start of any UFC card be if it wasn't a sketchy card to begin with? And I don't see props up on FanDuel at the moment. Do we have props up on DraftKings?
Yes, sir. We got a full load of props on DraftKings. They actually came out with a lot of fun stuff like point deduction you can bet on. You could bet on a unanimous or a split decision. DraftKings actually really stepped up their game this week, so I'd like to, or last week even. So I'd like to shout that out because now they're posted a day earlier than FanDuel. So, I mean, that's definitely a big shift right there.
So when looking at this fight, we see both of these ladies making their strawweight debut, which is kind of interesting. I found off the bat because I think that they're generally like more that frame. Although, Belbita's tall at 5'7". No?
Yeah, she's got a huge height and reach advantage in this fight. And when you look at Belbita's losses in the past, it's been to like a higher level grappler. And I mean, we see in the stats she's able to get takedowns. If you guys head over to UFCstats.com, you can see kind of everything that we're talking about as far as breaking down the individual fights. So if you guys are ever like, how do they know the height, the reach, or the stats that they're talking about, just head over to UFC Stats or UFC.com. They have some more individualized stats as well. So looking at the matchup, you have Diana Belbita, and she's landing almost 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. The problem for her is that when she gets the takedown and you're fighting a high level grappler, like Leona Jojua or Ariane Lipski before she gets into the UFC, yeah, there's a reason why she has 3 submission losses in her career. But Hannah Goldie, with 1 knockout win and 4 decision wins, I don't think it's as much of a threat from the bottom. So you're talking about the taller fighter, 7-inch reach advantage for Diana Belbita, 3-inch height advantage, and what seems to be the wrestling advantage as well. So I think no matter where it takes place, she should have an advantage, but there's just that sketchy factor of like her not being able to execute, right?
I don't think it's really difficult to somehow try to bank on Belbita executing when what you've seen through her last 2 fights, or actually her only 2 fights in the UFC, was really not much. She didn't throw any strikes versus Jojua really at all before getting taken down and submitted. So that was a really poor showing. Where it's hard to be on Belbita. How do you pronounce her name?
Belbita.
Like
pizza. Belbita.
Belbita? I don't. Mm-hmm. Are you sure?
It has like it had like a fucking accent and shit on it.
All right. It's all right. Yeah. All right. I'm fucking stoned. That's the problem. All right. So Belbita's reach and height are gonna honestly cause problems for Goldie. I didn't realize how significant that was. She fought Miranda Granger in her last fight, and she really struggled with Granger's range, like how big Granger was. And it's actually kind of unfortunate for Goldie because she throws so many strikes. I mean, she versus Granger, she landed less. She only landed 55 strikes, but she threw 166. And she threw 40 leg kicks. I mean, she threw 30 leg kicks. She is a powerhouse in terms of strikes. In her debut on Dana White Contender Series, she landed 141 strikes. She threw 265. Like, she's insane. She threw 45 leg kicks. So I just feel like if Goldie's made any sort of improvements in the last year and a half with the camp that she's been with, I don't know that Belbita could be ready for that kind of onslaught, because that's like a type of outpouring that is just unheard of. So if she actually starts landing, like if she can be a little bit more accurate against somebody that is not going to hit her with too much, because I don't know, Belbita's a striker, but I don't know, she's super powerful. Is she going to intimidate Goldie like maybe Granger could? I guess the range is really what I think is going to do it. I think obviously if anybody could have gotten Belbita at plus money, you're in the clear. Like, that was a really smart bet, but that line has changed where it's pretty much pick 'em. I believe it is pick 'em.
Yeah, I mean, it opened up at Belbita was plus 132, now sitting at a minus 105 or a minus 110. It's really in a spot where you've lost value if you were betting on the dog. If you felt great about Goldie, this is the time where you would want to make a play at minus 110. But to me, it's just a clear stay away.
Yeah, there's nothing major that jumps out. I mean, if we had to give away a play, though, what is our play?
I would take if you're asking for my pick here, it's Belbita, and the line is close enough to where, like, if you were degenerate, you could still play it. I'm just not going to have a bet on this fight.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, by decision is plus 180. That's probably how it goes.
The fight to go the distance is not plus 180.
No,
Oh, you
Diana
mean
Belbita
to
by
win by
decision is plus
decision?
180. So
Oh, okay.
if you want to prop, that's probably the best way I see it going. But I
I
mean,
don't know.
I'm not
I
sure.
see two interesting props on DraftKings. The fight to be a split decision or majority decision at plus 250, or the fight to be unanimous decision at plus 100.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah, I guess
definitely
I
going
just
on.
see whoever is able to kind of impose their game plan. I think is probably going to take a clear decision here, and it's going to make whoever bet on the other side of like even money look kind of stupid in retrospect. But it's
Yeah.
tough to say who exactly that's going to be. So I mean,
I do worry on how much Belbita can keep it at kickboxing range. So
yeah,
If Goldie
it's
can,
just I can't make a big play on this one. Come on, I can't even make a little play on this one. So let's get to another fight that I really probably can't make a play on. Sajara Eubanks, 7-6, coming back down to 125 for the first time in a few fights. Was actually on a 1-3 run in her last four at 135. And Elise Reed, 4-0, Cage Fury FC. I mean, she was the strawweight champion, and then here she is making her UFC debut now up weight at 125. So I really think it's so tough because you look right away on paper, you see Eubanks at minus 355 and you see Reed at plus 270. I mean, yeah, Eubanks should win this. She should be much bigger. She should be able to use her grappling, which against the lower level competition she's been able to use in the past. But I mean, Reed is going to have the quickness advantage. She's a pretty decent striker. She's been in bad positions grappling before, in near arm bars, and it definitely wasn't the prettiest even when she gets in top positions. So that's what makes me believe that she needs it to stay standing to beat Eubanks, who is so accomplished as a grappler. But at
yeah,
plus 270, is that enough for someone moving up weight, facing someone moving down in weight? It reminds me of like the Lemos and Ruiz type of deal. But I mean,
yeah.
obviously, Eubanks is no Lemos.
I think this is a foot in the door type situation for uh, Elise Reed, which is something that we saw last week with what was the fighter's name who just stepped in last week, and it was a good Preston Parsons, who's a good fighter, but was just taking a foot in the door type of fight versus D-Rod, and I think this is what's happening here with Soraya Eubanks. Yeah, she's lost her last two fights after getting a good win, actually rattling off two decent wins, one versus Cheesecake Morris and one versus Julia Alvia. But after winning that Avila fight, she lost to Vieira and Pani Kianzad. So I think she's going to come into this fight really hungry and really looking for a win. So I think it's one of those fights that, in retrospect, I love to preach on this show that a fighter really needs to earn minus 350. So I'm not going to be betting my house on Soraya Eubanks, but I do think that she's going to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's like I really want to take the chance on Reed, but this has got to be a discipline spot. You really almost need to pick Eubanks, even though, like we said, that price is just way too crazy to trust on a fighter of that caliber. And we see in women's MMA a lot of the time that there is a lot of crazy shit that happens, especially among like the lower level. And you see that, I mean, really in men's MMA too. When you see lower level fighters, a lot more variability. So, yeah, it's a stay away from me, but I'll pick Eubanks straight up.
Well, I do find it quite interesting that you can get the over 2.5 at minus 160. What is this fight to go the distance?
I mean, Eubanks definitely isn't
Fight
like a
to
big
go the
time
distance.
finisher.
Listen to that. Fight to go the distance is minus 125, which is insane for a female fight. And Soraya Eubanks' last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fights in a row have leading back to the Ultimate Fighter days have gone to decision. I'm sorry. I mean, they must. That's either Soraya Eubanks is 1,000% getting a finish, or this line is wrong.
That's interesting. That could be a little bit of a degenerate play there.
And not to mention Elise Reed 2 of her last 4 have went to the decision. So,
Yeah, the one thing that concerned me was that Reed's one amateur loss and her 7-1 record was an armbar, and then I saw her get put in another type of bad position with an armbar in a fight that she won. And yeah, I mean, given Eubanks BJJ black belt and World Jiu Jitsu Championship, Nogi Advanced Absolute Division, IBJJF, like she's been all over the place as far as grappling competitions.
so
And
why aren't we looking at a greasy submission play?
I mean, that's kind of like if there was one thing that you think about playing, just because, like, I mean,
plus 400 I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely juicy, right?
It's not as I was hoping a little juicier, but
yeah,
that's actually not when you really consider it. That's
the level of competition type of deal.
Yeah, and then we just said that they're considering that the fight's going to end in the distance. They're giving it a minus 125. I think that line's going to go up later on. That's weird. Minus 105 for it to not go the distance. That's so strange.
I can't bet this fight without seeing the face-off in the weigh-ins, because Eubanks going down in weight and Reed going up. I need to see what they look like next to each other, because it's only a 1-inch height difference. But like, I'm not getting much. The reach is apparently like 6 inches for Eubanks, but I'd like to see like the body's differential also.
I also wonder, is this a long-term move for Eubanks or short? Like, what is she doing?
I think this is her like back up against the wall. 4-4 in the UFC, 7-6 in her career, and she's probably getting near the end of her contract, if I had to guess, and like trying to find a way at 36 years old to remain relevant in the UFC. And if she doesn't win this fight against Elise Reed, you can be sure that she's getting her walking papers.
Oof, those are some harsh words from TB. It's hard to disagree with them, though. I think I'm ready to move on to the next fight.
Oh, I've been ready.
So, jeez.
So now we start getting to some bigger names here. We have Julio Arce, 16-4 versus Andre Ewell, 17-7. First thing that stands out on paper is that even though Ewell is normally the taller fighter, with Arce moving down in weight to 135, then we see that Ewell is only an inch taller, but he has a 5-inch reach advantage still. Ewell is a couple years older, so it's not like he's this hot upcoming prospect across from Arce, who's a 3-2 in the UFC himself. Ewell 4-3 in the UFC, but he hasn't really been successful in finding a finish. All 4 of his wins by decision, and Arce, he's shown he can get a win by any which way in the UFC. So when we really start getting into this fight, we see a couple of southpaws, a couple of guys that really focus on their boxing and maybe, some work to the body. Maybe a few head kicks thrown in there for Arce too, but I think this fight really comes down to the cardio and gas tank of Ewell. Where do you see it playing out?
I see it playing out on the feet between these two crazy men. I do think that it's gonna be a tough striking battle. We know that Andre Ewell likes to kind of stay at range and use his long limbs and kickboxing, and we know that Julio Arce honestly hasn't been in the octagon in a while. He hasn't fought since the end of 2019 versus Hakeem Dawodu, who was a pretty hot prospect until Movsar Evloev just completely disposed of him. He still is an interesting prospect. I'll still be looking forward to seeing him fight again. But in terms of Julio Arce, this is one of those fights where I do get kind of worried with the line at minus 200. I don't know what he's done to earn it. And I know that Andre Ewell is the king of the greasiest decisions. He had come in with 2 wins over Jonathan Martinez and Erwin Rivera in split decisions, and then lost to Chris Gutierrez in a decision where he just completely, like you said, gassed out. And he just
and it's also terrible. He's so heavy on the lead leg, and Gutierrez is so good with those leg kicks. So he just really couldn't get his rhythm going.
Not at all. And Gutierrez really shut him down with those leg kicks, like you said. So you have to wonder if Arce has anything in his arsenal that's going to be able to shut Ewell down.
Ooh, in his arsenal.
In his arsenal. In his arsenal.
I see what you did there, but I don't
crazy.
think. I mean, looking through his fight record and his stats, I mean, this guy's thrown only like 6 leg kicks. Only landed 6 leg kicks in his career so far in the UFC in 5 fights. Julio Arce. It's not like Ewell's throwing himself either. I mean, he's thrown even less percentage. But I just don't think that Arce is going to attack that type of game plan against him. And if this turns into a striking battle, Ewell's going to look really good early. But does he keep up the pace? I just don't know, because Arce's got that part to his game.
And so Arce's going down in weight.
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, to 135. So
yeah, so
I mean, I want to see him with
he's
the weight
only
cut.
fought at 145. So he's only fought at 145, right, in the UFC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big deal when we haven't seen him before. I mean, he's a I wouldn't say an old guy. I mean, 31 years old. So, I mean, this could be the perfect time to make this cut.
But we're talking about his gas tank is good. What's it going to look like off a cut like this now?
Well, against a guy like Andre Ewell, who's leaking gas before he even gets to the octagon, I don't know. It's another kind of interesting fight in terms of sketchiness. What's the reach here? 7. So Ewell gonna have a 5-inch reach advantage. I mean, that's like a big deal when you then are getting somebody at plus odds.
I kept on looking at Ewell as like an attractive dog option, and I've tried not playing guys with like such suspect cardio recently, and like it's so sweaty, and like even as a plus money guy, it's like, and he goes up early, I'm going to be feeling so good about my bet, and the next thing you know, like round 2 and round 3 are just a fucking dud,
he just shuts down.
It's a losing ticket anyways, and like, damn, I can't.
And you
trust him.
and you'll just kick yourself afterwards. You never feel good because you talk yourself into it. You never actually end up feeling good. I'm curious where like the Bet MMA people are on this fight.
Yeah, I really think I'm not really so sure that I'm looking to pull the trigger on either guy. I mean, the price for Arce, I mean, it's almost minus 200. I mean, that's really way. I mean, it is minus 200 at this point. It keeps going down. And listen, if Andre Ewell turns into like a plus 200, plus 250 for whatever reason, then you might have to start like really considering it. But even so, I just don't know that it's a winning ticket. And like, Arce is definitely not a guy I'm throwing in my parlay. So, I mean, really that brings us on to what was supposed to be the placement for the people's main event. But, I guess we got some late news that Yanez versus Costa might move to the main card. So we'll go past that one for now and circle back to it, right?
Sounds good.
And so our next fight that should be happening on the prelims, and maybe one from the main card comes down to join it. But yeah, we have Nasruddin Imavov versus Ian Heinisch. And this is, it seems to be another step up in competition for Imavov. Like, pretty steady step up again from his UFC debut against Jordan Williams, who we'll get to in a little bit here. Maybe that's the fight coming down. But, I mean, Imavov faces Jordan Williams. Then in his next fight, faces Phil Hawes. I mean, that's a real tough matchup. And then now he's facing a guy, Ian Heinisch, who, I mean, this guy's
it's another
he came
tough
up as
out.
A hot prospect on his own, and like, damn, now I mean, he's faced a lot of top guys.
Yeah, that's another tough ask for Imavov here. I wonder who his manager is, or if he pissed somebody off, because those are some tough matchups. And I guess you could say the same thing about Ian Heinisch, who just took a tough fight against Kelvin Gastelum, who completely wrestle fucked him for 15 minutes. When you almost kind of thought that it would be a striking battle because Heinisch has decent wrestling, but that really was not the case. So that really taught me something about Kelvin, and I guess about Ian as well. Before that, Ian had looked Hurricane Ian, Hurricane Heinich had looked great against Gerald Meerschaert for the minute that he was in there with him. But, I guess before that he had come off the tough 2 losses to Amari Akhmedov and Derek Brunson. So I did really think that I really, really liked Heinich, and I think I still do, but would I be the most shocked ever if Imavov was able to pull something out? I just, like you, I don't think Imavov is that great anywhere at the end of the day. At 25 years old, the Russian sniper has a lot of areas where he can improve. So if Ian at 32 really does belong in this top 20 of this division, he really needs to put a stamp on Imavov here. So I do like him, but I'm concerned. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you jump to the line. Heinisch right now minus 150, Imavov at plus 130. Damn, I just I really side with Heinisch here. I think Imavov showed a few things in his fights against Phil Hawes. One, he's not beyond getting grappled and just held. And then as Hawes gasses out late, Imavov actually is able to land some straight punches and get him on skates, but for whatever fucking reason, he goes and clinches him up and starts wrestling. And man,
Right.
you could have put him away. So the fight IQ definitely stands out in that regard. And then Imavov also has shown to, definitely get hurt. I mean, Jordan Williams is able to land on him at points before he gasses out and starts shooting recklessly. Ian Heinisch, I don't see him really getting caught by a submission. He did lose in 2017 in LFA to Marcus Perez by submission. I don't think Imavov is quite as good, or that Heinisch doesn't set up his shots as well, where he's going to get caught in that front choke by Imavov. I think Heinisch is able to impose a little bit of his strength advantage. He is going to be the shorter guy. He is going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. So if Imavov is able to work from the outside and establish his striking and really not let Heinisch get on the inside at all, I think he could have some success. He might be able to win around here. I just think that Heinisch is going to be able to wear on him. And I've seen Imavov gas out. I've seen him get wobbled.
Yeah.
And I've seen him do that against Jordan Williams. So
who is also on this card?
Yeah, so let's
No, I think you're right.
And say, I'm on
right.
Heinisch. He's a parlay piece, so that'll start off a parlay for me.
I mean, I think you're right. What we've seen from Imavov is questionable, to say the least. And then his background before that was against extremely suspect competition, now that I'm looking at it. Like, 2 fights before he's in the UFC, he's fighting guys that are 1-2 and 6-5. So it is, that's really suspect. I'm 100% with you. I'm on Ian Heinisch, and I like him. By decision?
Yeah, I guess that's the way I would play it, but
Plus
I mean,
250?
straight up seems
plus 140. I mean,
yeah, I mean, straight up seems good to me. I have a couple other pieces for a parlay here, so if you're cool with it, let's get on to our next fight.
I'm actually not cool with it. We need to talk about this longer.
So we got Puna Soriano versus Brendan Allen, and this is quite the prospect matchup, huh? Puna came off of a little bit of a layoff. He had some concussion issues in camp, in a wrestling incident, and he took the proper time off. I thought it was a huge red flag going in against Todorovic, and Puna was able to maintain his distance. He shows great striking defense. Maybe not the most accurate striker overall, but he makes up for it well by holding his opponent at bay, and he also lands some huge power shots.
Well, that's why he holds his opponents at bay, with huge power.
It makes total sense, and also he's a high-level wrestler. Definitely, coming out of Extreme Couture, and he really puts it to work. It's not like he's going out there and just clinching guys and holding them up against the fence and stuff like that. Like, Soriano lands 2.6 takedowns per 15 minutes, and at 66%, I know it's a small sample size against Jamie Pickett and Pechota and Todorovic, who he didn't even attempt to take down on. But yeah, I just see the power. I see Soriano able to use his defense, and then looking over the other way, it's like Brendan Allen. I mean, he got boxed the fuck up by Sean Strickland, which
Yeah.
definitely is something that happens. But he's got losses to Trevin Giles by submission, Eric Anders by decision, Anthony Hernandez. Those all in LFA before he gets in the UFC. But I mean, Brendan Allen, he showed me on multiple occasions that he's not beyond getting stopped. He's not beyond getting out grappled. I mean, in the Kevin Holland fight that he wins, I mean, he gets hurt early, he gets busted, he gives up his back, and then all of a sudden is able to wiggle out of it. And
that was a pretty interesting fight.
Yeah, it definitely was. And now Brendan Allen, he moved down to Sanford MMA from Rufus Sport. So maybe getting a little bit better work on as far as the defensive striking goes, because those defensive numbers are horrible for Allen. And
yeah, they're really bad. 39% striking defense is really unfortunate, because you look at his striking accuracy at 58% and you're like, oh, wow, that's actually pretty decent. But he's obviously putting himself in harm's way and not getting out of it to land his strikes. And that's a problem against a guy like Soriano, who, I mean, if you watch the Todorovic fight, I think Herb Dean just wanted him to die, or just wanted to break his chin multiple times, because, I mean, the fight arguably could have been stopped with the giant strike that knocked the dude's mouthpiece out to the point where they needed to go looking for it. I mean, Todorovic was able to stand up through that, but, I mean, they made sure he went to sleep in that fight. The problem I do see with Soriano that hasn't been exploited yet, and I'm not sure that Allen is the guy to do it, is that Soriano swings so hard with every single one of his punches. And I see it 2 minutes into the round. He's breathing deep. Like, when somebody's going to be able to slip his punches or make him pay for expending himself too much, he's going to end up in trouble, because I think that he relies on his wrestling background a little bit too much. And if Brendan Allen can extend this fight to, say, the third round, I have no clue what Soriano is going to look like. Not a damn clue. So if it gets there, like, we've seen Brendan Allen go there against decent competition in Kevin Holland, So, I mean, at least to the second round versus Kevin Holland, to the third round versus Dawkins. I don't know. It's an interesting fight. That's why it's a pick'em. I do think that I am on Soriano, because, unfortunately for Brendan Allen, I think the way Soriano strikes is a little bit similar to Strickland, in the fact that they're technical, and that they do kind of like wing punches with a lot of fucking power, and they're kind of relentless in the way that they march forward. So I think that's going to be a problem for Brennan.
Yeah, I personally am just going to play Soriano straight up. He's even money. Actually, I mean, on DraftKings, he slid to -115 with Allen at -105. So FanDuel, he's still at -110. I don't think that it moves too much further from there, because I do think there's solid reasons to want to bet either side. But I just found a few extra reasons, I would say, on the Soriano side. And at even money, I'll definitely take that chance on, like, not my play of the day or anything, but that's like a smaller spot for me.
Yeah, definitely an interesting spot. I don't know what prop that I love. Maybe just the fight not to go the distance. What would that prop even be? Probably ridiculously high. -280. So yeah, they don't expect this. So maybe you fade that narrative. What do you think? Could the fight go the distance? Would you even consider fading that narrative? Or is this not the fight to do that?
I don't think this is the specific fight to do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I like it so much from a straight up money line perspective that I'm not even looking at a prop here.
So you really do think that there's a lot of value on Soriano at Pick'em. What would you line this if you're Vegas?
No, listen, I think it makes total sense, because you're trying to get actions on both sides as Vegas. and realistically, both of these guys are good prospects. They have a few good wins, and Soriano is still like half the experience that Allen has overall in his career.
Definitely.
But I just think that he's been at his camp longer, so I do like the fact that he's shown to work well with Extreme Couture, whereas Allen has moved around a little bit more. And while maybe that was necessary after his brutal knockout loss, he did look better on the feet against Carl Robertson. But let's remember that was Carl Robertson, not someone who's ever been like overall impressive in the UFC.
Risen to the occasion on any sort of level.
No, so I mean, we can't be too surprised about that. And I do think that Soriano is much more defensively sound. He's going to be able to hurt Allen at some point. And if it turns to the wrestling, I think Soriano is going to be able to lean back and also get a little bit of control. The submissions will be live from the bottom. That's why I think like either way, you could definitely see this fight ending inside the distance.
I think this is an interesting fight to be looking to bet live too.
Definitely. I mean, Soriano, how many times has he been in Deepwater? I mean, a guy that has 5 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 1 decision. At least Allen's been the distance 4 times, 2 wins, 2 losses. So the deeper it goes, you have to think Allen is going to be looking better. But Soriano gets a lot of top control early. He could be coasting to a finish.
Certainly possible.
Yeah, so let's make an executive decision here. We got Mickey Gall versus Jordan Williams. I think after this one is where we'll insert our people's main event.
Definitely.
So
at least that's where we would put it.
Yeah, I think that this would be the fight I would move down to the prelim card. So Definitely. Let's treat it as such. And if not, hey, it happens. We guessed wrong. But we're getting this podcast out a little bit earlier this week for you guys. Really, want to see how that goes. So, hey, if the order's slightly different, who cares? We got Mickey Gall versus Jordan Williams. This is one of these spots where there's a huge public narrative, I think. And we're starting to see some of that come back in the line. Jordan Williams at -178. Mickey Gall plus 144. Jordan Williams is super interesting in the fact that he was the first type 1 diabetes diagnosed UFC fighter. And he wasn't cutting weight because of it. Now he goes out to Elevation. And, he's been speaking about how difficult his transfer is to moving down to 170 from 185. And how, he has to keep track of his blood sugar and, it got low. So he drank the wrong juice and he gained a little bit too much weight as he's trying to cut. And it's definitely a little concerning for a guy trying to figure out his body. And I'm really interested to see Williams on the scale. I hope he has a successful cut. But Mickey Gall, we saw a lot of improvement in the stand-up, winning round 1 against Mike Perry in my book. And from distance, landing some crushing kicks to the body now. He obviously has that grappling in his back pocket, BJJ black belt background in wrestling as well, but he was definitely spoon-fed a lot of opponents as he came into the UFC 1-0. And now here he is, 6-3. He has losses to Mike Perry, Diego Sanchez, and Randy Brown. So those are some decent names in his losses. You got to think Mickey Gall has definitely faced some solid guys. And Jordan Williams wins over Gregory Rodriguez, who we saw have an impressive debut. And then a loss to Imavov, Kuro Magomedov, and Dwight Grant, and Rodrigo Vargas. So he's definitely got some solid names on his record, but it took him a while to get over the hump in Dana White's Contender Series, and now here he is, moving down a weight class. How does his body respond? Does his cardio hold up? Does his chin hold up? I don't think it really does quite the same, and I think Mickey Gall might be able to get a win here in a plus money. It's a little crazy, but I think the public is just big time down on Mickey Gall. I'll fade that.
I couldn't disagree with a damn thing that you said. I think you broke down this fight perfectly. While I was listening to it, I'm like, geez, what does he even need me for? You did a great job. Seriously, I don't think you even missed anything. Jordan Williams now cutting weight as a diabetic. That's like a huge red flag for anybody that knows anything about diabetes or has a diabetic friend or relative or something. Like you got to really watch that stuff. So it's really a major undertaking for him. So you have to wonder how he's going to be able to take punishment 24 hours after that, or how his body even responds to then recovering from said weight cut in 24 hours or whatever that is supposed to look like. So that's really, really interesting. the major public narrative, like you said, is this major heckling of Mickey Gall as a fighter, because of kind of getting wrestle fucked by Mike Perry. But I mean, Mike Perry's a beast, so I don't really like that narrative. And yeah, like you said, he's been fighting once a year for a little while, which has always been is mildly disappointing. Has been struggling to kind of stay healthy. I do like Mickey Gall here because, like you said, I mean, there's too many unknowns with what we're going to get from Jordan Williams, and I think Mickey Gall is going to come out hungry. For a while, he's been win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and he just lost one. So I think he's due for a win. And yeah, I don't know what Jordan Williams is going to look like cutting weight. That's a bigger weight. I think that's a bigger problem in this fight than possibly any other fight.
Yeah, so I mean, looking at, a couple props here, maybe I do like the Mickey Gall straight up, but I also did see Nasruddin Imavov, lock in a few front headlocks and really get close on a couple. And Jordan Williams, I mean, he gasses out heavy. So, I mean, looking at, one of my possible greasy submission
That's
props.
What I like. Mickey Gall by submission
Gall
plus 400
plus
again.
400. I mean, okay.
I like the greasy submission parlay of parlaying both of those two. Plus 400 submission and put even a smaller unit bet on crazy. That. That's what I like.
That's crazy.
That's what I like. I'm the greasiest grease ball, so that's my play. The greasy grease ball.
Submission parlay. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps that one up. So I think it's time. I think we get down to our people's main event: Dr. Pepper versus Reese's, Adrian Yanez versus Randy Costa, the prospect battle. So here we go. I mean, talk about exciting. This fight got put together because of Twitter engagement and the fans really wanting to see it. And you know what the UFC said? We normally protect our prospects for a couple fights, but both these guys, a couple impressive wins. Let's get them out there. Let's let them put on a show. They want to fight each other. They're having a fun build-up. And now they bump them up to the main card, according to the guy Fitzgerald. So it's like, damn, I mean, I couldn't be any more excited. We're really going to see a battle of two guys that are really figuring it out at the top level. I mean, where are you leaning on this one?
I'm leaning towards watching this fight with my eyes absolutely glued to the television. This absolutely should be on the main card. These are guys they should be highlighting. Both guys are 27 years old, in the prime of their careers. The point right before their prime. They're about to hit their prime. They're hitting their stride. Both of these guys have had back-to-back knockout wins. I'm pretty sure they both got bonuses for both of them, right? I mean, they were incredible. Yeah. Costa didn't get one for his one versus Boston Salmon, but 3 out of 4 of their knockouts were bonus winning knockouts. So Giannis has gotten 2 of them, which is incredible. And I think he might get a third.
I don't think you're too far off on that. However, as I look at the line and kind of like the styles of what Yanez and Costa like to do, so Yanez is very much so a boxer. He does get heavy on that lead leg, but like Costa doesn't use leg kicks. So unless it's Sanford, they started drilling some of those with him recently, because that is a pathway to victory here. I can't bank on that. And then Yanez, very good at timing, counters. He throws beautiful head kicks, and he actually started incorporating a couple leg kicks in his fight against Gustavo Lopez. So I do think as far as being the more varied striker, that Yanez is up there. But I mean, how about that jab followed by the step-in head kick knockout of Newson? I mean, holy shit, Randy Costa. That was a beautiful combo. So
yeah, it was really incredible. Costa is a little reckless. He's not afraid to go out there and just kind of start winging these monkey punches. I mean, he's really very, very unique and unorthodox in the way that he fights. He's very long and rangy. Yanez is certainly, from what we've seen, a lot more technical in the way that he strikes. Doesn't really move as much, kind of a bit of a stationary target at times, I felt, and is open to being like countered off of his counter. But the problem with Costa is what you saw in the Brennan Davis fight, which kind of gets overlooked at times, at least I felt. He was rocking Brandon Davis, and Brandon Davis just kept calling him on. It was really an insane fight. I guess Brandon Davis felt like he could take Costa's best shots, and he wanted him to gas, and he did. He gassed because not only was he throwing at a ridiculous pace, but he was also getting landed on at a ridiculous pace.
And on short notice.
In his debut. So that's a tough fight. That's crazy. So, you've obviously expected Costa to make changes and improvements since then. But at the same time, you saw him get gassed out. Kind of not gassed out, but you saw him start to gas, and you saw him get rocked. And then when he was completely rocked, that's when Davis came on his back with the rear naked choke. So I think Yanez can really hang in there. Or if Yanez can hang in there and start to work these rounds a little bit, I think he can end up getting that finish like he did versus Gustavo Lopez.
So a couple interesting angles if that's your thought process, because it sounds like we have the same kind of idea here. Adrian Yanez over one. Yanez versus Costa over 1.5 minus 135. I mean, Costa came out and he barely threw any strikes before landing the knockout on Newson. He seemed to be much more reserved, a little bit more patient setting up on the outside, because he throws 7.88 strikes per 15 normally, whereas Yanez is at 4.69. And his defense is even a touch better than Yanez, but we've seen him in much less fight time overall. So, you see against Journey Newson, he literally landed 4 strikes in 41 seconds. So, while that's a decent pace, he didn't come out rushing them. They happened spread out the whole time, and he looked much more patient as he was doing it, as opposed to 22 strikes in 2 minutes against Boston Salmon, or 46 strikes.
Yanez is extremely patient. Yanez is extremely patient. He shows that, he has a decent amount of experience with 16 fights, professional fights, but he shows it still beyond his years and his fight years with his quote unquote level of experience and his ability to be patient. And I think that Costa is now trying to stress that a little bit more, but his style still kind of needs to dictate that. It needs that craziness, because that's kind of just still how he fights on some level.
Adrian Yanez to win and over 1.5 on DraftKings is my favorite play for this fight at plus 165.
Yeah.
We should probably sit back and enjoy it, but I need to have a bet on this fight just because I'm so excited for it. And I think that is the angle. I think they're going to be much more played out than people are expecting. I definitely expect it to go over as opposed to under. And I definitely think Yanez wins. I just think he's the more well-versed striker and, double the experience. And he's shown it in his approach in multiple fights. And much higher level of competition overall. Adrian Yanez, I don't want to parlay him out because I just want to focus on this one fight with him. So give me that and over 1.5 plus 165.
Yeah, wow. I wish I would have found that before you. This new DraftKings layout is horrible, but I'm trying to get used to it. At least they have all these awesome new options. It's just the layout is terrible.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. It's definitely better than the layout on FanDuel.
I don't agree at all.
Well, the difference for me is that when you go in, you could go to click winning method and it brings you and it shows you the winning method for all the fights. You don't have to click into each one individually. That's what I like. So you can just be scrolling. I could
care less about that.
Yeah, it's much easier to be able to follow through everything. I think it's set up perfectly fine, but To each their own, right? So now I think we broke down that one well, and it's time to keep on moving along the main card to our next fight, which here we go. Here comes another piece of our parlay. Can you guess who it's going to be? Favorite of the show, Chronic Combat always seems to support Miranda Maverick, coming on against enemy of the show, Macy Barber.
Boo.
I mean, just as far as our picks in the past, it's funny. I cashed on a huge, well, not a huge play, but a huge line on Roxanne Modafferi fading Macy Barber. Then Macy Barber comes back off her injury, faces Alexa Grasso, and yeah, I took that Grasso money line. And then Miranda Maverick comes into the UFC. We got her against Jojua, and then in her next performance against Jillian Robertson, and we were all over that one as well. So
yes, we were.
Maybe the finish didn't come, a tough weight cut after the first fight being canceled after the weight cuts. So it was like, now Maverick has a full camp. Honestly, I mean, scouting her, she is in the best shape she's ever been based off of like her pictures and the new Venom gear. I mean, damn, I'm super impressed. She said she's the lightest she's ever been at this point in camp, that the weight cut should be super easy. She's focused on her nutrition. This is like the biggest jump she could have possibly made in camp, because it's like focusing on something that she's never really focused on before. She sounds like such a professional. She really understands like the mental aspect of the game. And Macy Barber, you see her jabbing at her opponents from 10 feet away and just like not showing proper technique and just being muscled around by smaller opponents like Grasso. I just
listen. Yeah, in that third round though, she started to punish Grasso, but I think it was really more of a Grasso kind of being tired and really letting
survival
her
mode.
Yeah, her foot off the gas pedal, and knowing that she had those rounds in the bank. I do understand where people's love for Macy could be. Macy is a strong. She has she has a great upside, and she has a lot of power in her punches. The way she kind of wings punches was definitely giving Grasso trouble at times, because Grasso has no head movement, so she was really struggling with some of that power. I really like what you see from Miranda Maverick. She's one of the more well-rounded fighters you've seen just kind of come into the UFC. I do think that Miranda Maverick, if you told me this fight stays on the feet for the entire 15 minutes, I wouldn't feel as comfortable with Miranda. And I do think we should. I think we should make that clear.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we went back and watched the Jojua fight together, and like way too many straight punches were landing down the middle on Maverick. Now she shows, perfectly fine chin. Not concerned about that aspect necessarily. It's
toughness,
just like,
didn't take any like long-term damage or anything.
Nah, she's there to be hit though. So that's something that we definitely can't like.
And she's improved since then. It's been a year and a half since that fight, but.
It wasn't ideal. I mean, against Robertson, she absolutely outclassed her on the feet, but you have to do it.
Everybody kind of outclasses her on the feet.
And speak about Macy Barber outclassing people. Yeah, she outclassed. She finished Jillian Robertson in the first round. So it's like,
quickly.
Yeah, if you can overwhelm Jillian Robertson like that, yeah. But it looked like Robertson had made some improvements in her stand up at that point, going to Fusion Excel for a little bit. Getting away from just the Dean Thomas School of Grappling. So I do think Maverick faced a different version of Robertson. And like we said, maybe a deplenished version of Maverick making a second weight cut within 1 month after a failed fight booking the first time. So Macy Barber, I just don't think her wrestling is good enough. I don't think her grappling is good enough. She almost got submitted by Alexa Grasso in round 2. And she had a little bit more success later on, but Maverick is just not the one that you want to be grappling with. The same way that you say that Maverick doesn't want to be standing with Barber, Barber is spending this entire fight trying to avoid being taken down, because if she gets taken down by Maverick, I don't think it takes long before she gets finished. I think she's too sloppy with her technique overall, whether that's in the clinch, she doesn't find the underhooks, whether that's getting taken down, she doesn't necessarily operate defensively.
Well, she is at Team Alpha Male now, right? She's made a change to Alpha Male, so we do wonder what kind of improvements Macy Barber's been making.
23 years old, so it's not impossible that she's
leaps and bounds can be different. But
yeah, I mean, Maverick, I would say I feel good enough to include her as the second leg at minus 145
I
in
do
my
like that.
parlay that I started with Ian Heinisch. So leg 2 out of 3. Stay tuned. We got another one coming. If you want, I would also say I know that Macy Barber, she's been very tough so far in her UFC run, but the under 2.5 is plus 170. And this fight to end inside the distance. I mean, I think that there's a greater chance of this one ending inside the distance than the Eubanks fight earlier. Just as
That's
far
it.
as like,
I agree with that completely. I was thinking, maybe I'm playing it too. Maybe I'm pussyfooting around it. I was seeing because I like the way that DraftKings offers this now, and B, I like the way you played it earlier. Miranda Maverick in the over 1.5 at minus 110. Because I think
I
it
don't think
goes
it
past
happens early.
around.
You're right.
So I think it goes a little bit later. Um, and I really like Miranda. So I do happen to like that, but I could see it your way
Doesn't
too.
go the distance. Fight doesn't go the distance is plus 140. If you think Barber can land a
I
knockout
like that
shot,
a lot.
or if you think that Maverick gets her 7th career submission win, or her 2nd career knockout. So I mean, it's like I think there's multiple ways for this fight to end inside the distance. You got a lot of power on both sides, and they seem to be in the best shape of their life on both sides as well. So I would say like there might be a sneaky play on it inside the distance, but I'm gonna take Maverick straight up in a parlay.
I agree with that. I think Maverick is another parlayable piece, so I really like that. And
Okay,
yeah,
great. Yeah, I mean, it sounds good to me. Might as well get on to our next fight here. We got Darren the Damage Elkins versus Derek Minner, and I do think that we did see a little bit of recency bias in the line here. Derek Minner, super impressive performance against Charles Rosa. He's been fighting out of Glory MMA now, so we see him working with James Krause and maybe a little bit more fight IQ. But we can't, talk about all that without saying that Charles Rosa loves playing off his back and giving up top control. So it's like, how much did Minner have to work and really work that gas tank? Because Elkins, I mean, he's the damage man. I mean, that guy's a psycho, and he's not easy to take down. And if he does get taken down, I mean, he's got that brown belt, and he's got multiple freestyle state championships in wrestling, 2 years of D2. He went to states all 4 years in high school, so it's like this guy, he's got that wrestling in his back pocket. It's not like Minner's just going to be able to like guillotine him like it's TJ Laramie. I mean, I just think this line, while I do favor Minner, it's sketchy as fuck.
This line has changed since I sent a prop to you earlier off air this morning, and it's kind of leading me really far into my play. I'm going to make a play on this fight right now, honestly. This fight is going the distance, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you that right now. I sent you the prop earlier. It was plus 106. Now it's plus 100. And on DraftKings, it's at minus 110. I'm telling you, this fight is going the distance, and that's exactly why FanDuel's also offered the prop boost of Derek Minner by finish, because this fight is going the distance. Darren, the Damage Elkins, is one of the toughest fighters in the UFC. I know toughness is a word we throw around with every single UFC fighter. Of course, they're tough. You don't get a name like the Damage for nothing. So I will just kind of leave it at that. The dude is tough as nails. I don't know that you're going to go out there and finish him. He's got cardio like the Energizer Bunny. In terms of heart, I don't know that he goes very quick or very fast, but he just will keep going. He will not stop. He's like a zombie. And and you wonder whether Derek Minner, he went the distance with Charles Rosa, but Rosa offered absolutely no resistance off of his back. And I think that in the grappling exchanges, Elkins is going to test him a little bit more. So this line is too wide at the end of the day. I do think Derek Minner should get it done. I think Derek Minner is the bigger guy in that respect. But wasn't that line like minus 200? Has it come down a lot?
Yeah, I mean,
it's minus 160. That's like a little bit more reasonable.
Yeah, I feel like people definitely caught on to that Elkins. I mean, it should probably be an even money fight.
What did it open at?
We had the opener was well shit. Um I mean he got as far down as minus 205.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I had seen him.
Minus 215 even, yeah.
Exactly. So that's where I had seen him. Now I think the line has kind of come back to a place where it's a little bit more reasonable. So now I'm not as sure, but I do still think I really like my play. I do think it goes the distance. I don't think Darren
Good call.
Elkins gets the finish. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think Darren Elkins. When was the last? Darren Elkins finished Eduardo Garagori in the third round when Garagori was absolutely exhausted, and I have no idea what Garagori's UFC career. He shouldn't even. I mean, he got the UFC contract because they had the fight in his home country, and I mean, he was a decent kickboxing prospect, but he hasn't really panned out to be too much here. And then he lost 4 fights in a row before that, and then he finished Michael Johnson, who so many times has beaten himself.
Yeah, I mean it totally makes sense overall. I definitely lean your direction, and I might not play this fight, but if I do, it's probably going to be towards the underdog. If I had to guess. But let's get on to this next fight. Let's close out a parlay. We have Kyler Phillips minus 265 versus Raulian Paiva plus 215. We have another guy making a change in weight class. Raulian Paiva moving up from 125 back to his pre-UFC weight class of 135 versus Kyler Phillips, who 3-0 in his UFC career, 25 years old. So I mean, only 8-1. Paiva 20-3. It certainly looks like on paper he's got a lot more experience, but some of those fights came against some real sketchy competition on the Brazilian scene. So, and you see him go to 13 decisions. So you see he really doesn't have the most potent finishing ability, whereas 7 of his wins are by finish and 13 by decision. And moving up in weight, I don't think that adds to his finishing ability. And then you bring in Kyler Phillips. I mean, man, explosive, dynamic, range management, grappling skills. It's just like where does Kyler Phillips lose this fight, man? Tell me.
I'm not sure because I'm not taking Paiva. I am on my boy Kyler Phillips. One of the coolest dudes, honestly, in the UFC. Seems super nice, super genuine, hardworking, hungry. 26 years old, top of his game, jiu-jitsu expert, good striking, good cardio. I got him at a beautiful plus money play in his last fight against Song Yadong, whichever way you'd like me to pronounce it. Yeah, I mean, the knock on him had been that he hasn't gotten the big fight. Well, he had gotten the big fight against Song Yadong, and he performed extremely well in that fight. Really, I some people gave Song Yadong that third round, but I mean, Phillips had done enough through 2 that he kind of proved his point. I'm interested to see how Paiva looks up a weight class now. He's used to kind of being the longer, rangier fighter, and he's not that guy in this fight. So I think that's really, really interesting. I'm on Phillips. I don't like how wide the line has gotten. I feel like we're paying a premium on him because of how good he looked first song and because he was an underdog. And I think people were really barking loudly when that line cashed. But I don't know. I like Phillips by decision plus 100.
Yeah, I don't think Paiva's chin gives in, especially up a weight class, having a safer cut. He has been finished by knockout by Bontarine, but that was a doctor stoppage due to a cut. And his other submission loss came on the regional scene. So I don't necessarily expect Phillips to get a finish here, but that wouldn't surprise me. I just think he's better in every area. And I think that Phillips is worth throwing in my parlay as the third leg. We got Kyler Phillips, Miranda Maverick, Ian Heinisch, plus 288. Throw it in. That's my play of the week. Drop 100 on that. See if we can make $288.
We love that, and I believe it's a great time to announce since you've just announced your parlay that we're going to be opening our Bet MMA for this podcast so that we can better track our cohesive thoughts, short term and long term.
Bring some accountability to the show. We want you guys to see where we're doing well, whether it's props, straight bets, parlays. I think it'll be interesting to kind of see our progress. And, hey, even if we're not the best bettors, I think we try to bring the best perspective. So let's have fun with it.
That is certainly the goal. We're going to have fun with it, and we're all about that long-term gain. We've always looked at this as an investment because we just want to keep going. We're not looking for the quick cash out. We love this. That's why we bet on it, and that's why we watch it and study it. And we want to keep going. We want to keep the party going.
Hell yeah! So let's keep the party going to the co-main event.
Oh yeah,
right. We got Aspen Ladd versus Macy Chiasson, and Ladd coming off that ACL injury. Also a really horrible weight cut in her second to last fight against Jermaine Durandamy. Makes a nice return against Yana Kunitskaya, and so here we are a year later, coming off the injury versus Macy Chiasson, who still pretty inexperienced overall.
But coming off the injury she had in training camp for the Sarah McMahon fight, she tore her ACL and MCL as a 26-year-old. And now she's coming back to fight Macy Chiasson, who had like a heart scare of her own a little while ago, but I believe has since dealt with that and then fought Marion Renault.
Marion Renault took a round in that fight. Let's
sketchy.
Remember that.
And that Lena Landsberg fight is about as sketchy as all hell, man. I've been back and forth all week with this fight. I really thought I liked Macy Chiasson as a dog play. I find myself unable to be convinced with Macy Chiasson as the dog of the week because I don't know that I can trust her enough because of that Marion Renault round, because of the fight against Lena Landsberg. I think she is somebody that kind of wilts under pressure a little bit. She kind of did show some resistance to that in that third round versus Marion Renault because she could have very easily dropped that round and then dropped the fight, but she rallied back hard. But Aspen Ladd is somebody if you give her an inch, she's taking a mile. She's gets the better nickname than Betch Correia because she's the real pit bull. I mean, she will gnaw at you. I mean, she will keep coming. She's vicious. The ground
and when she's ground and pounding, she is barking.
Yeah. I mean, she's vicious on the ground. She's got that. She does have the decent striking, as you saw. She clips Yana Kunitskaya as they run out for that third. Yana was tired and not expecting that, but she absolutely clips Yana with that. So she's strong and she has no problem anywhere the fight goes. And I know that if for some reason Aspen's on her back, that she's not just going to lay there like Macy will. I feel like this is one of those spots where I try to chase the value in the dog, and then
I try to chase on the value.
What?
You try to chase on the value?
What does that mean? I said I try to chase the value.
Macy chase on the value. I'm sorry. I'll just cut that.
What?
You're Macy chasoning the value. Sorry.
I'll cut that. Is that a joke?
Anyways.
I don't even get it.
Is
it's supposed to be a play on words?
It's a stupid play on words. I'm sorry.
Your chase on. Oh, I literally hate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like this is one of those fights where I try to chase on the value. This is one of those fights I try to chase on the value on chase on here, and I fucking hate you.
I'm leaving it. That's so good. Nah.
And I'm not gonna do it. So I think I might be on Aspen Ladd. I want to see the weigh-ins desperately. So don't quote me here.
Give me Aspen Ladd plus 275 by knockout.
What? You're crazy.
Just a fun play, nothing crazy. Like
You
just a
just
little one.
you can't declare something like that and it be like, oh no,
Sure, I
just kidding,
can.
that's my flyer.
No, I mean I don't have like. Listen, there's a lot of red flags in
I
this
like
fight,
her
but like,
plus, but I like her decision plus 160.
no, I mean listen, I mean Shason's only loss in her career has been by decision. I just feel like if Aspen Ladd gets her in the positions that Landsberg had her in, it's fucking Chihuahua ground and pound
You're
finish. You
right,
know what I
and
mean? Like
you're
she's
right.
gonna be barking and going
What did
crazy.
you say her KO was?
Plus 275. It's the second
Oh,
highest
plus
probability. Like,
340 on FanDuel.
ooh, okay. So there's some value if you want a little more value. I mean, FanDuel's got the
Who doesn't
co-main
want a little bit
posted.
more value?
All right, so let me. I'll go sprinkle a little Tenzo on that. Make some
Yeah, I like
34
that.
if it hits. If not, like $10, not so bad when you got 100 on a 3-leg parlay. You know, so it's like 10% of what you're putting out on your best bet. If you throw that on a little proppy, then you're all good. Right?
Unless it doesn't hit and then you're out at all. But that's always with gambling.
Hey guys, last week 10 of 10 on fight predictions, went perfect on my picks with bets. So we're playing with house money this week, baby. Let's get it. So here we are at the main event of the evening. We got Corey Sandhagen, 14-2 versus TJ Dillashaw, making his return to the octagon off a 2-year EPO endeavor.
And a hand injury, right? Or a cut? No, it was a cut in training.
This fight is going to play out one of two ways. I think Sandhagen either comes out, keeps the range, shows TJ that it's not the old UFC, and like he knows what it is from distance. He's got the 3-inch reach advantage. He's plenty taller, about 5 inches taller than TJ Dillashaw. So, you know, he's also 6 years younger. He's probably going to be a little bit quicker on his striking, but TJ Dillashaw, he's definitely got the technique. He's got the defense, and unless he's getting clipped, by the way. But also TJ Dillashaw's got the wrestling, and we've seen that be an issue for Corey Sandhagen. So can TJ Dillashaw, you know, supposedly didn't use EPO until he tried to cut extra weight. So can he keep up the cardio here and keep his wrestling game going? Because I don't think he outstrikes Corey Sandhagen, do you?
I don't. I mean, that's an interesting way to put it because when you look at the stats, you don't really see that Corey Sandhagen has ever been to a 5-round fight. TJ Dillashaw has trained for multiple championship level fights, whereas Corey Sandhagen, he had one main event opportunity against Marlon Moraes, sure, but Marlon Moraes looked like an absolute ghost of himself. He almost looked like he threw that fight with how bad he looked, and and you know, credit to Corey. I mean, he got the job done, and then he came out versus Frankie Edgar and threw one of the sickest flying knees you ever saw, other than the Masvidal one. So again, I'm not trying to take anything away from somebody, but you get 2 flash knockouts for a guy that maybe isn't known for having knockouts in his career, and all of a sudden he's a high level favorite against a premier athlete, a former 4-time UFC champion, considered possibly one of the best pound for pound fighters of all time, you know, obviously before his EPO excursion, which I was all over Henry Cejudo in that fight before I even knew what I was talking about. So I was really happy to see Cejudo win. I was a huge Cody fan at the time too, so I was really upset when TJ scrambled his brains twice, especially with that first fight where he kind of got rocked at the end of that first round and got saved by the bell. But I think I find myself maybe, whether it's chasing the ghost of who he was or just chasing the dog money, I think the line should be closer, even if it's just because you don't know what to expect from TJ. I like TJ here. He threw. I just don't. I don't see it. Corey, cut all this. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Let me take over,
please,
real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, this was a brutal fucking pod.
So, I really think this fight comes down to TJ's all-around game. He's proven that he has great striking accuracy compared to his 65% defense, which means his opponents are landing 35% and he lands 41%, and he outlands his opponents by almost 2 strikes per minute. So it's not like TJ can't hold his own on the feet. I just don't think he wins on the feet consistently against Corey. But like you said, how can we trust Corey to go a full 5 rounds? We see him against John Lineker going into the 3rd round, asking his corner if he needs this one. And like that's a split decision win for Corey Sandhagen. Talk about sketchy. I mean, he's getting hit to the body. He doesn't like it. So, I mean, TJ, he knows all these things. You know, it's not like TJ doesn't know about the striking, you know, to all different levels of the body. It's just like, was he so far ahead of, you know, the MMA game for his time, and then his time off, the game kind of catches up to him? Because, I mean, Sandhagen is slick. It's just, he's not beyond getting touched on the return either. I mean, 48% accuracy, but his 59% defense is less than TJ's. So it's not like his increase in accuracy makes up for it on the defensive end. You know, they're pretty much equal when you look at their type of striking. And then in their grappling, I mean, Sandhagen, he doesn't have the highest efficiency, but at 37% on takedown accuracy, that's really not a bad number. Whereas the takedown defense for Sandhagen is 30%, and that brown belt is not saving him from anything. I mean, he doesn't tap necessarily. He gets put out. But, I mean, that he still, I mean, he gets put in that really bad armbar before he's able to reverse it against Yuri Alcantara. And, you know, it just shows that he's not beyond being grappled and put in bad positions. And with a guy like TJ that's been there before, that's his path to victory. And listen, you look at the line and you have to see a whole bunch of recency bias. And listen, this comes from the guy who made Frankie Edgar his dog of the day against Corey Sandhagen. But
yeah,
we're doing it again, guys. Dog of the day, TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah, we have to.
Corey Sandhagen. You got to be consistent.
The line is too
it's
wide.
Not biased. You got to be consistent.
Yeah, the line is just too wide. It doesn't add up. I see too many people all over Corey Sandhagen. I don't see any dogs barking in terms of people on TJ. So I think I'm going to be the driver of that train.
Let's go. I'm hopping on. Choo choo. Let's throw it down. Dog of the day, baby. I mean,
and how about the fight to go the distance? I like the fight to go the distance, possibly. Is that insane?
It's kind of insane. I think Corey fades late, if anything. But
if TJ gets it finished,
smaller cage,
people go wild. Smaller cage, that's so interesting.
People hate TJ, and the people love Corey Sandhagen after his like crazy finishes. I mean, is that not baked into the line here? It
might be.
I mean, how is Dillashaw that big of an underdog where like I'm sitting here and I'm able to get him at plus 165 right now, and it keeps going down, and they're going to face off, and Corey Sandhagen's going to be taller, and it's going to keep on going down. And like, if you get TJ Dillashaw anywhere near plus 180 to plus 200, fire away.
Oh my God.
You might have to like play the day number. You know what I mean? Like, just from a value perspective, because sure, there's a lot of red flags with TJ, but he does look good coming back, and I think he has paid his dues. And it's not that I like the guy per se, but I like the line a lot.
TJ has 4 submission wins and 9 by knockout. So it's probably not going to be a submission win because TJ by submission is plus 1,300. So that's not happening.
But it's not like Sandhagen hasn't been like the reason we took Frankie Edgar was that the wrestling and like getting Sandhagen down. So if we get to there and you have TJ Dillashaw, I mean, would you say plus 1,300?
Yeah,
I mean, that's really not worth it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at double chance, you can get TJ by finish at plus 230. So that would probably be the way. Because otherwise you're getting TJ by knockout at plus 320. So if you're that confident that you can cut submission out of there.
Yeah, I'll just take the money line.
Yeah, it's probably the safe way to do it.
And that just about wraps us up, huh?
It certainly does.
Let's give the loyal fans a breakdown of our best plays here because you guys were so patient to make it to the end, and we'd
Yeah,
like to reward you for that.
yeah, definitely give them a good rundown. I think though it's always possible that there'll be a couple different bets on our Bet MMA profile, whatever we're gonna literally post, because obviously this is still pre-weigh-ins for all our loyal listeners. But TB is gonna give you guys a rundown of our plays for this.
All right, so for our at least the play of the day here, we got a 3-leg parlay. We have Ian Heinisch, we have Miranda Maverick, and we close it out with Kyler Phillips.
Man,
It's
I
plus
love that.
288.
I love that so much.
Yeah, that's a great play in my book. We got Yanez in the over 1.5 was plus 160. I like Puna Soriano straight up minus 110. Sliding a little minus 115 depending where you get him. So we'll see how that goes. And finally, we liked Darren Elkins and Derek Minner to possibly go the distance here. Maybe looking at the underdog there in a small play. Aspen Ladd by knockout. We liked that like a plus 320 we found on FanDuel, so the value was there. And TJ Dillashaw is the dog of the day. And if he gets anywhere closer to plus 200, we might be looking at a full play to match our play of the day parlay. So, yeah, I think there might have been a couple other small plays mixed in there. We had Mickey Gall by, an underdog play as well, straight up. And I'm not looking to really touch some of the earlier fights here because there's a little bit too much variability.
Definitely a lot of sketchiness. We made some really good money last week on a really interesting card where we knew a lot of dogs would be barking. Dogs weren't exactly barking on this card, so I think we played it a little bit more conservatively. We got a really peculiar, interesting main event with the 2-year layoff of TJ Dillashaw. We got a couple fighters with some layoffs this week. Certainly makes it really interesting. I cannot wait for these 12 fights. Hopefully they all hang in there because the last 2 cards in a row we've lost a fight on the day of the fights. Hopefully that does not happen this week. Thank you all so much for listening to Chronic Combat Conversations. Please make sure to check us out at Chronic Combat on Twitter, at Chronic Combat Conversations on Instagram. Please follow my incredible co-host at TB Scouting MMA on Instagram, Twitter, Verdict, and Tapology. You can find me, Guru Scouting MMA, on Twitter, Verdict, Tapology, and Instagram. Please make sure you are checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like our videos, share them to your friends. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and make sure you give us a 5-star rating, or whatever you feel is appropriate. Hopefully it's 5 stars with some feedback.